Video shows Aurora police officers talking about their colleague being drunk before they made sure he would not be charged with drunk driving. A political candidate suggests we're all going to die unless we vote for him. Speaking of how to save our planet, a scientist in Colorado noticed our conversation about that is leaving out half the population. A big man on a little ski lift is the most Colorado thing we've seen today. And we remember a firefighter determined to save his brothers. Next. Aurora police knew their colleague was drunk when they found him blacked out behind the wheel of his patrol car on duty. They even said so. That was captured on newly released body camera. The officer kept his job after a demotion, and the police chief in Aurora has defended the other officers who made sure that the case was not handled as a drunk driving investigation. Here's Noel Brennan.
It's the middle of the afternoon on March 29th.
911, what's the address of the emergency?
And there's a Ford Taurus in the middle of Mississippi Avenue.
There's a guy passed out in his car, it looks like, in the median.
One woman calls 911, and then another.
911, what's the address of the emergency?
The car is not moving.
I pulled over, there's a vehicle that's kind of in the middle of the road, and there's a man inside who's not responsive, and it's a police officer.
It's a police officer? So where exactly
It's a police officer.
Let me see. Okay, yeah, I'll let you in.
Aurora police officer Nate Meyer
We got you. Hold on, he might have.
is passed out drunk.
Sure he doesn't have.
Even as an officer leans over broken glass in the passenger seat, starts to remove his jacket, and reaches for his duty belt. Meyer doesn't seem to move. He remains slumped over, chin to his chest, hand still on the wheel of his unmarked patrol car.
Where's this duty arm? We got it. Okay.
3 of the officers on scene say there was a faint smell of alcohol on Meyer's breath.
Yeah, bro. It'd be good.
They didn't know at the time his blood alcohol level was more than 5 times the legal limit.
He's a little intoxicated.
Fellow officers didn't ask for a blood test. Meyer was not charged, and he's back on duty, like he was on that day in March.
Snow Bren reporting. Aurora Police Chief Nick Metzs is pretty smart to frame this issue as one of compassion for the officer who took responsibility for alcohol abuse. And that compassion is admirable, necessary even, because as Chief Metzs notes, law enforcement officers are subjected to high levels of trauma. They need support if addiction or mental health struggles come as a result. Now, you can argue about whether that particular officer who was blackout drunk and armed behind the wheel of a patrol car deserves a second chance, but it's not an unreasonable discussion to have. We are still, though, left with the fact that the Aurora police officers who responded smelled alcohol, noted that their blacked out colleague was intoxicated, that those officers did not have his blood alcohol level tested. They knew what that meant. Their decision ensured that prosecutors would not have the evidence if prosecutors wanted to charge their fellow officer. Other law enforcement officers, including Larimer Sheriff Justin Smith, have suggested that those actions and Chief Metz's defense unfairly cast doubt on other law enforcement officers. All law enforcement officers know that discretion, like public trust, has its limits. Denver police now have another internal investigation going, looking into how a distracted officer ran over a woman today. Denver police say the officer was pulling out of a parking garage early this morning at 8th and Grant when somebody passing by tried to get the officer's attention. DPD says the officer looked in that direction, did not see a woman who was kneeling or sitting next to the exit of the garage, and that woman was run over. They say she was taken to the hospital, not seriously hurt. The officer is not going to face criminal charges. An internal review is being done to determine if there should be any discipline. Second time in a month that a Denver police officer has hit a pedestrian. Another officer hit a woman in a crosswalk at Bannock and Spear earlier this month. That woman also not seriously hurt, and that officer is also under investigation. The people trying to get us to take climate change seriously have to walk a sort of tightrope. Describe taking action in cheerful, optimistic terms? Well, then you risk people thinking that climate change is not that big of a deal. Paint too fearful of a scenario, and people will tune it out, thinking that nothing can be done. Democratic Senate candidate Andrew Romanoff is choosing option number 2. Describe Colorado's future as a dystopian hellscape.
miss most is the sunshine. But we've been here for a really long time now.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Temperature today is 127 degrees Fahrenheit.
Romanoff's online video shows a family in Colorado Springs in what the ad calls the not-so-distant future. They're huddled in hazmat suits as killer tornadoes bear down on them. This is a fictionalization. It goes on and beyond even the most dire climate change predictions. It certainly gets your attention. Attention and money are the two things that Romanoff has struggled to attract in the Democratic primary. The primary where party bosses want former Governor John Hickenlooper to be the one to face Republican Senator Cory Gardner. Climate change is the issue where Romanoff sees a clear advantage over Hickenlooper. Hickenlooper, of course, cozy with the energy industry, once bragged about drinking fracking fluid. Romanoff's video released this morning is going viral, and that's how it's going to get in front of voters and donors, because he's not putting money behind it as a television ad. The video criticizes both Hickenlooper and Gardner. Senator Gardner has fully embraced President Trump, and he embraced Trump-like language in responding to the video today, calling it insane and suggesting that someone should check on Romanoff, who stepped down this year from leading Mental Health Colorado. Colorado's other senator, Michael Bennet, has his presidential campaign going on. It continues to be a quest to convince people that he exists. Former Vice President Joe Biden accused Pete Buttigieg of stealing his health care proposal to expand Affordable Care Act. Senator Bennet is filing a politics report for stolen property. He's telling NBC News that it's his plan everybody's ripping off.
I've been robbed blind by everybody. I mean, if Mayor Pete stole it from Joe Biden, Joe stole it from me, because as Bernie says over and over again, he's the guy who wrote the damn bill on Medicare for all. Well, I'm the guy that wrote the damn bill on the public option.
There's a lot of very mild cursing, this family program. Bennet supports adding an option for the public to buy into Medicare at any age while leaving private insurance as another. Buttigieg and Biden have similar policies. Bennet continues to barely register in the polls, but he has promised that he will stay in the race at least through Iowa on February 3rd and New Hampshire on the 11th.
Hi there, you just about made it through your Monday, and an interesting Monday it was. A little snow this morning, a lot of sun this afternoon, but not really all that warm. Our high at 32, very similar to the high on Sunday, and 10 degrees cooler than average. And our storm, it's out of here, creating problems off to the east. As a matter of fact, isolated tornadic thunderstorms across the southeast, including Louisiana, where one tornado touched down and killed somebody, and there's a lot of damage in that area. This storm's going to continue to move off to the east, the cold air retreating, and that means high pressure will set up, and that gives us a break from the cold and the snow for a few days, timed well for this busy week before the holiday. Snow ending from the northwest to the southeast tonight, but with clear skies, light winds, we're going to see good radiational cooling and one of the colder nights we've seen in a while. 10 in Denver with a cold start to your day tomorrow. Quick warm up, lots of sunshine, and 41. That's seasonal. It gets better midweek, mid-50s, and then 60s for the upcoming weekend. Beautiful weather right into Monday of next week, and the sunrise and sunset pictures lately have really been something. This one, Kyle, from Mike Starkey.
South Metro's former assistant chief of operations tried to change the way his firefighters did business. He hoped that it would save their lives, even if it could not save his own. That is the legacy of Troy Jackson, who passed away this morning.
Ask South Metro firefighters about former Assistant Chief Troy Jackson, and they'll tell you he was a family man, loved his wife and kids, and he loved his firefighting family, along with the community they served. Since the 1990s, he answered countless calls for help. For a man who spent decades beating the clock to save others, it was cancer that limited his time. Adenoid cystic carcinoma. His doctors say he most likely got it from his work. As Jackson treasured his days with his family at home, he was also intent on saving other members of his firefighting family, saving them from the cancers that too often come with their line of work. He set out to change the department's culture, to teach firefighters that dirty gear is not a badge of honor. It's a sign that carcinogens are still close to your skin and that they should be washed off as soon as possible. Jackson's career took him up the ladder, from engineer to lieutenant and ultimately assistant fire chief. He told us, "If I could go back and do it all over, I wish we knew." his fellow firefighters now know. And Jackson's legacy at South Metro is doing everything possible to preserve their health. A final gift to his family. Chief Troy Jackson was 51.
A group of women are crashing the party to talk about environmental sustainability. A CU professor says that women need more seats at the table when we sit down to discuss how to care for the planet. And Anusha Roy explains how she's getting attention for that idea.
Assistant Professor Cassandra Brooks says it so casually.
So I've just spent a month away down in Antarctica as faculty on a women's leadership expedition, and it feels wonderful to be home.
What she was doing was course correcting a history of keeping women away from the South Pole.
That women used to not be allowed to Antarctica. It was considered too dangerous for them, or all sorts of reasons. It was a man's place.
No one could convince the U.S. Navy to change that policy until a research team out of Ohio State in 1969. Add 40 years to that,
and here we are bringing the largest expedition of women ever.
And 111 women just spent a month in what Brooks calls the global commons.
People don't live in Antarctica. There's no native indigenous people to Antarctica. It's a responsibility of all of us.
The quick history lesson gives the expedition some context. It's through a program called Homeward Bound, a leadership training program for women interested in environmental sustainability. Brooks is one of 2 Colorado women picked to go.
More women are finishing their undergraduate degrees and even graduate degrees in the sciences, but they're not always making it to the positions of leadership.
So they flew to South Argentina, traveled across the Drake Passage, the most dangerous stretch of ocean in the world, to reach a place with obvious signs of change. Glaciers retreating, penguins that have disappeared, changes meant to motivate the women.
So the hope is you bring more diverse voices to the table. It's not yet equal, and so when you're not invited, I think it is okay to crash the party.
So this group of women, they are surgeons, teachers, professors from 33 different countries. So the idea is that they just created this new network of people around the globe with a common goal. Now, Homeward Bound is actually a group out of Australia, and they are hoping to train 1,000 women in the next decade. So this was their 4th expedition like this one.
This is not like meeting up in Boulder for a conference, though.
No.
I mean, they got to pick up and find a way to get down there. And...
Yeah, it's a little bit more expensive than that, right? So they were saying that for each person, it's $17,000. And that a lot of the women have been fundraising their way there. So it's not like the costs are taken care of. And it's a long journey. They got to get to Argentina, and then they got to get to the South Pole.
Yeah, well, made a statement for
They
sure.
did,
And
that's
all
for
those
sure.
connections. All right, thank you, Nusha. As we count down to the end of 2019, we are remembering all of the great signs that you sent us this year. Every morning we open up our email and you have filled it with these hilarious signs from across Colorado. Who remembers this one? Budweiser. Fun for kids. It's not. Don't do that. That is just unfortunate sign placement at one of those paint and sip studios, apparently. Michelle sent us this one back in October. More of the best signs of this year are coming up in a minute, but it's not too late to get in on the action. You can send us any sign that's so good you've taken a photo. Use the hashtag HeyNexter. Email us next@9news.com. A man from Atlanta flew up here to Denver for a medical procedure, and it was only when he got here, 1,400 miles from home, that he learned he was going to need an emergency liver transplant. In stepped an old high school friend. Our Byron Reed has the story of a bond renewed.
This is the alignment machine.
Ken Stafford has a full plate this time of year.
It's just busy all the time, thank goodness.
Living up to his company name.
We try to take care of our customers like your family.
He owns an auto shop with his wife Dolores, who recently got a phone call from a close friend living in Georgia.
We've been friends since 9th grade.
Teresa Anderson.
We were besties before besties was a thing.
Needed a favor after her boyfriend Richard underwent an emergency liver transplant here in Colorado.
Arrived on a Thursday morning, and Thursday afternoon I was admitted into St. Luke's Presbyterian.
I didn't know if he was going to make it or not. Things got pretty dire. Luckily for us, one of my best friends in the whole world lives here, and she talked her husband into letting us come and camp out.
The two have been living in the Stafford's basement since November while Richard recovers.
Well, we've got to get Richard to gain about maybe 20 pounds.
With a few familiar faces from home.
This is Chloe the second. That's Jax. And then I have Chloe's mother, Muffin.
You kind of get choked up about it, that so many people got their hands on you or behind you. and behind the scenes and care about you.
Teresa says they're thankful for their friend's hospitality.
It's going to be a good Christmas.
During the time of year when it's better to give than receive.
I could just almost cry. I think what a blessing to be able to host someone through, especially the Christmas season.
If everybody has the mindset of giving it forward, doing something for someone else instead of buying something, I think that says a lot.
For Next,
It's just a miracle in action. I don't know what else to say.
I'm Byron Reed.
Teresa says she'll be heading back to Georgia after the first of the year. Richard's doctor thinks he'll need to be here until April. The most Colorado thing we've seen today is a ski lift straining under the weight of former NFL star Rob Gronkowski. He posted this photo from his weekend in Breckenridge, jokingly asking everybody, "Can you tell which one is me?" Yes, I would say it's the one about to flip the chair on the left. What's the most Colorado thing you've seen today? You know how to find us. I read every email that comes to next@9news.com and everything that comes to the hashtag #HeyNext. It's another sign, one of our favorites that you found and shared in 2019. Multitasking, I suppose. Fortunately for everybody, the ATM inside sign refers to an ATM inside the business, not inside the porta potty. You could just do both at once. Next viewer, Jeff, snapped this picture in Silverthorne in April. We have more of the best signs for 2019 on the Next Facebook page. Return with your feedback next. So much feedback tonight about that Aurora police officer. Caitlin Kirchen says clearly has a problem, heartless to fire someone for addiction. People are too quick to judge. Rosanna Grigg said he may have had some overwhelming problems. However, he does not qualify to guard the rest of us who trust him to do so. And Shirley tonight, noting that we also mourn the passing of the fire chief there in South Metro, said thank you for the first responder stories today. Both were handled with honesty, grace, gave us something to think about. Something to think about is our goal every evening, and we'll see you next time.